Welcome back, Bears fans, to another episode of the Chicago Audible podcast, and welcome to this week's installment of our annual summer series, Countdown to Camp, as today we'll be breaking down the Bears' backfield with the entire show focusing on the running backs. I'm Rosewell DeWitt, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Nicholas Moriano and Brandon Hazlett, and yes, we are here a little bit earlier in the week than normal, as we will be traveling to Bears 100 weekend. Well, I guess I'm the one that's going to be driving up on our normal recording night. So you can thank me for the accelerated week and the quicker turnaround on these podcasts. But guys, I want to let you know, and I was telling you right before the show, some of our first ever Chicago Audible shirts came in this week, just in time for the event. I know I'm getting more excited. How about you?
Oh, absolutely. I can't wait until mine comes in. It's supposed to be here maybe tomorrow, Will?
I sent you the tracking. It's on you from this point forward.
I definitely didn't click the link, so I just missed that.
That's okay. You got business cards. So that's step one. But I know that we have had some listeners of the show asking, are we going to get new gear? Oh, it's a new brand because of everything that happened, middle of last December that I'm not going to really get into the minutia of right now. But just to show people here on YouTube, we do got a couple things not for sale yet. Kind of just testing out a couple different designs. It has our microphone on the pocket. Pretty cool. I'm very excited to wear it. So if you see me wearing that shirt over the weekend, Chicago Audible, definitely say, hey, Nick, you're going to have yours on as well. Jordan Grimes, he has a nice polo with like a embroidered patch of our logo on it, which is really neat. So who knows? Maybe we'll get a few of these up here before the regular season kind of kicks off if you're wanting to find a way to help support our podcast. We'll be talking about it once that happens. But baby steps, guys, baby steps as we kind of inch our way back from that fiasco of December. But alas, Brandon, are you excited? Because I talked you into going finally this weekend.
Yes, I had some other things that I was saving up for, but managed to finagle my budget around to be able to finally do this. So I'm looking forward to going as well.
Good, because we're gonna have to revoke your Bears fan card if you didn't end up going. So I'm glad. I'm glad that you were able to pull through.
Me too.
Now, we've been starting Countdown to Camp episodes by going through some Bears news of the week, and we recorded on Thursday evening. It's now Tuesday evening. I don't have too much here between these last 5 days, guys. I have three things that we could discuss. Number one, Trubisky and his offensive line going to the White Sox game. Trubisky throwing out the first pitch, outshowing Aaron Rodgers. If you want to kind of go that route, I'm not really going to promote binge drinking on the podcast, though, especially with I know we have minors who listen to the show. But alas, did you guys have any take on that? I know all three of us are also Sox fans, so I thought it was pretty cool to see like the two paths kind of cross for a night.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool, and I don't know why it's becoming a thing for quarterbacks to start chugging, because I noticed Patrick Mahomes was doing it as well in the Stanley Cup final game. So again, I don't know if that I endorse that behavior. Well, I know I don't endorse that behavior either, but it's just really weird to see it, especially with a pivotal position in the league.
Nick, you're all for it, right?
I mean, hey, it's good to have some fun every once in a while, right? That's what the weekend. No, I'm just kidding. But speaking about the Sox, I did just get a new Sox shirt, so I'm excited for that. But it was really cool to see Trubisky in the offensive line. They lined up, protecting him throughout the first pitch. So that was really cool to see. And now we know that Trubisky and company are Sox fans. Of course, they probably go to Cubs events as well. But being Sox fans, it was cool to see.
It was, and it was kind of cool to see. Normally, when you see someone or even quarterbacks kind of throw out the first pitch, they do it solo. But the fact that Trubisky had his guys go on the mound with them, sharing that moment, that's pretty neat. It shows the camaraderie that they have on this offense, the tight-knit group that we've been talking about growing as a culture over the past couple of seasons here at Hallis Hall. It's just one of those small things that I think mean more than maybe just meets the eye. So for me, that was a really cool moment. But that wasn't the only cool moment over the weekend. Matt Nagy went back to Delaware, had the commencement speech, a couple of big takeaways from there. I mean, obviously, he really hit hard on the BU kind of, mantra that he's been having ever since he came here in Chicago. He had a few extra things, but the one that I tweeted about and the one I really liked is he's going to name a play this year called Ass Kicking Chicken. And I really hope that is called Week 1, or heck, maybe he saves it up for a playoff game as well. But Nick, did you listen to the speech or anything? Any thoughts about that? Because we all graduated from our respective alma maters a few years ago, and I wish I had someone like Nagy out there leading the charge for the commencement speech.
Yeah, just I did watch, and Matt Nagy just knows how to speak and be a leader amongst people, and you just hear that in his speech, and he mentions a lot of good things. And the big focal point was just kind of going through adversity. He mentioned the playoff game, and his son kind of bringing that up. Dad, did you call the plays? And yeah, he did. And then the next day, having the big interview with the Bears. So, and it all goes back to being you. If you just are true to yourself, that can kind of get you through those adversity moments in your life. So I thought that was really cool for Matt Nagy. And I remember I did tweet about it, just saying the Bears, it makes sense why the Bears are, relevant again, because they have a guy like that who's leading the charge, who's the head coach of this team. So it just all makes sense. But it was really good speech. And, I'm just proud that he is the head coach of the Chicago Bears.
Absolutely. B, did you catch that at all? If not, no big deal.
I did not. I just caught the ass kicking chicken part and thought it was really funny. So, other than that, I seen that there was some guy dressed up in the background as like a colonial soldier, which is cool and all. And I'm not trying to make fun of like the university or anything like that, but it's hard to take a commencement speech like that seriously when you don't know the background of the university. So I kind of took that as more humorous and didn't take it too serious, so I didn't watch it.
Okay. So I honestly, number one, my second takeaway of ass kicking chicken, I just had to find ways to bring this up on the show over and over again, is that KFC with their finger looking good, that's not cutting it anymore. I think they need to talk to Nagy, buy out ass kicking chicken, because that would be definitely worth some marketing points over there for that chicken brand. Actually, any chicken brand can definitely take that up. Last but not least, at least on my end, and I can hand over to you guys, the Bears' supposed leaked jersey. Dick's Sporting Goods put out a couple of those Bears 100 jerseys, the new alternate uniform, out on the shelves a little bit early. It's reminiscent of the 1936 jersey with white jersey, multiple stripes, solid navy numbers. I know us here on the show really aren't, I'm going to say, uniform or jersey aficionados or geeks or anything like that nature. But I'm just curious to your guys' general thoughts on it, because our Jordan Grimes, who wrote an article about it, who's our graphic designer, sometimes like to call him the man behind our brand, really liked them. He actually had a very similar concept himself. I was curious to your guys' thoughts, because we are going to see the jersey be unveiled Friday night. Not Brandon, because he's not showing up until Saturday. But regardless of that fact, Nick, what's your thoughts about that jersey?
Yeah, I thought it looked good. And Jordan really did a good job with his first concept that came out, months and months in advance, pretty close to what the actual jersey looks like. So kudos to Jordan on making that. But yeah, I like him. I don't know if I will get a jersey with that. I don't know if I'll get that one though. I really like the orange, and that's the one. If I had to go get a new jersey, that'd be the one I'd get.
What player?
Man, putting me on the spot here. I think Eddie Jackson would be a pretty dope jersey to get, just because that's a guy just ascending, one of the best safeties in the league, and he makes plays.
All right. And I mean, there's really no wrong answer at this point, which is awesome, because 3 years ago, you couldn't pay me to buy a jersey for the Bears, honestly. It's amazing how quick things change. Brandon, I don't think we need to hit too much on the jersey yet again. Do you have any general thoughts on it? Because for me, like Nick said, might not be one I buy. Maybe I'll buy it and hang it up, because you can have like that 100 jersey. It would be kind of cool to keep. But with like all the stripes on the shoulders and then again on the arms, I don't think I'm going to be rocking that by any means.
No, I don't think I will either. But just like you guys, shout out to Jordan for being pretty dang close on his article, if that's what it actually is. So props to him for that one. I think I actually would get a more modern jersey with the 100 patch on it, because the patch looks kind of cool. I don't know if you've seen it, but yeah. I'm a fan of the 100 patch myself rather than jersey.
All right, enough jersey talk, guys. Any other news that I missed throughout the weekend?
Not really. I think you hit on everything there.
Well, you can tell it's June, can't you?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into what we're here for, and that's to talk about this year's running backs. And let's begin with the backs that are returning from a year ago, which there are only 2 of them. And I want to start with Ryan Nall, because really, I don't think it's going to require much of a conversation. Nall joined the Bears last offseason as an undrafted free agent from Oregon State. He found himself having a decent training camp, kind of turned our heads actually a bit as well. And he had a very productive preseason. He averaged 7.6 yards per carry last preseason. Yet, he found himself on the outside looking in when it came to the final roster and didn't play a single snap in 2018. So, with the Bears bringing in 3 new running backs this offseason, Nall again, he's going to have his work cut out for him if he wants a shot at making this roster or even the practice squad. So, Nick, I would go over to you first. Honestly, simple simply put, Ryan Nall, what does he need to do or accomplish to really make this team this year, despite the fact that the running back room is, at least in my mind, much more competitive?
Yeah, it is a lot more competitive there, Will. I think what Ryan Nall needs to really do is show his versatility because right now I have Pro Football Focus open. They don't even have him listed as halfback. It's more so the fullback role. So, and now the Bears, they don't have Michael Burton anymore on this roster. That's when he really needs to show that he can be interchangeable at both positions, be fluid enough to be a running back, to run between the tackles, make people miss, get upfield, but also as a fullback to be able to lead block for whoever the running back is. So that's what I think Ryan Nall needs to do to have any shot at making this team. I know a lot of fans want to see him play. They love to hear Ryan Nall, put him in. Well, that's most likely not going to be the case this year because I think that Nagy finally has the running backs that he wants in the system. And I don't know if Ryan Nall is really the guy that's going to be the one that makes this 53-man roster.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent here, and when you look at it, especially from the athleticism standpoint, he really doesn't stack up to the competition right now in that room. But you did bring up a good point about him showing some versatility because it was about a year ago when we were talking about him potentially having that hybrid role between fullback, running back, being that new age kind of fullback that was our kind of idea on the podcast a year ago. But now we've been talking about that same role, but usually from the tight end perspective. So Brandon, do you see Nall having a shot at that fullback spot or that hybrid spot, or do you see that more than likely going towards a tight end and utilizing different tight ends in the backfield this year?
I think he'll get his fair shot at it, and I think he deserves it because you brought up, he averaged the 7 yards per carry. So that's definitely worth keeping him around and shopping that option. But I think ultimately it'll go to a tight end, whether it's Ben Braunecker or Bradley Sowell. I mean, Braunecker's not really going to run the ball, and I don't think Sowell will either, but they can, I think, do a better job of blocking out of the backfield, especially Sowell. He's a big body. You got to really kind of dodge him if you want to get to a running back if you're a defender. So I like the other options that are there as of right now. And when I organize my notes for these countdown to camp, I go, who's making it, who's on the bubble / practice squad, and who's getting cut. And Ryan Nall is the only one on my cut list for the running backs. So spoiler alert, he's getting cut.
Beat you to it. All right. Anything else on Nall, Nick? I don't think I need to hit on much more here from my end.
No, I think that's about all the talk that we should have on Ryan Nall. He hasn't made a really big impact on his team, does make an impact, in training camp and preseason, but that's about all we're probably going to hear from Ryan Nall this season.
All right. Well, we have a lot more excitement when it comes to the running backs. And speaking of exciting players, let's talk Tarik Cohen. In his first season under Matt Nagy, Tarik Cohen saw his role expand in Chicago. He was able to capitalize on those opportunities as well. Not only did he see 30 more touches compared to his rookie season, but he was also more dangerous with the football. He averaged nearly 2 more yards per touch. He had a 5.2 as a rookie, and that jumped up in 2018 to 6.9 yards per touch. And it's pretty funny because despite seeing a jump in every number across the board for Tarik Cohen, I still feel like he can take yet another step forward here in year 3. So, guys, I'm curious, what are some of the ways that you can see Cohen continuing to get better in 2019 and become even a more dynamic playmaker this season? And Nick, I want to go to you first.
Yeah, so I think especially going back to 2017 to 18, we saw obviously Tarik Cohen's usage go up, and that's a good thing for the offense. But I think Matt Nagy just needs to keep putting him in different positions. He had 541 offensive snaps last season. 3 were at quarterback, 352 were in the backfield. He had 108 in the slot, and then 76 at wideout. So I think Matt Nagy just needs to keep doing what he's doing and just putting Tarik Cohen everywhere, because that's going to make it more difficult on a defense to key in on a guy that I don't know if anyone was checked my Twitter, but there was a play where Josh Bellamy has a 20-yard touchdown. Well, 2 defenders literally go to Tarik Cohen because he's running a little bubble route. He can be a decoy. He's a factor on every single play because you have to factor for him. So I think Matt Nagy just needs to keep finding ways to get Tarik Cohen the ball, and I think he can definitely expand his role in the running game. He only had 99 rushing attempts. I think that bumps up a little bit more this season, even though the Bears did draft David Montgomery. But I think Matt Nagy's, he just is getting it was like the floor for what Tarik Cohen can do, because you could just put him all over the field, and it's usually a good thing for the offense.
Brandon, how about you? I don't think Tarik Cohen has many weaknesses to his game, but do you have any areas that you kind of envision him refining, being more fine-tuned, and now in year 3?
Yeah, I think that he needs to focus more on the fundamentals. He had 6 fumbles last year. So that's something he can immediately work on and get better as holding on to that ball, because there's times where we see he's holding it out there like a loaf of bread for someone to take. And I think that I'm on board with both of you guys that I think that Tarik Cohen can still explode to another level as far as productiveness goes. I think if I'm Matt Nagy, I am trying to make him the focal point of the offense, especially to start games. And if they take that away, then so what? Then you have Allen Robinson, Trey Burton, David Montgomery, so many other weapons on this offense that then the offense can be more balanced that way. But until the defense shows that they can stop Tarik Cohen, I'm giving him the ball or finding a way to get him the ball as much as I can, because there were times last year too. I think back to the playoff game most notably. And some of it does come down to coaching and quarterback play, where Tarik Cohen didn't really get the ball and was a non-factor in that one. So Matt Nagy really has to do a better job of figuring out a way to get him the ball and making him the center point of this offense. And from there, I think he can explode, and he's going to make everyone else better because he's such an explosive playmaker.
One thing I want to add, and just one thing, and it's very minute, not a big deal at all. And he did a better job as his second year compared to his rookie year, but he still has a little bit of that magnet along the sideline where he gets a little bit too close to it at times, and he steps out with a lot of yards still in front of him. So for him to have some sharper turns upfield when he's nearing the boundary, again, small thing, very minute, but he does seem to have that weird magnet with his cleats and that, the white chalk along the sidelines. And again, anytime that you step out, and even if you have 3 to 4 yards in front of you, those can change a drive. That's the difference of sometimes punting and continuing on. So for me, that's just one small thing that I can definitely see Tarik Cohen kind of working on this offseason. Moving forward, and one word you're going to hear throughout the show and probably all season long when it comes to the Bears backfield is going to be crowded. And Nick, I know that you tweeted it out. I just wanted to promote your Twitter again because I know you can't get enough of it. But I just want to know, you've been thinking hard as to what the workload is going to be for all the running backs this year, but we'll stick with Cohen here. So just one guy. What kind of role do you envision for him? A bigger role, a smaller role, the same? Because for me, I have a hard time really seeing it diminish really in any regard. So I'm curious, what kind of role do you see him having?
So here, I'll put this out there. Tarik Cohen is only on around 46% of the offensive snaps. So, I mean, when you think about it, that should definitely go up for 2019. I don't think that's enough for Tarik Cohen. So in 2019, just looking at what he did last year, having the 99 carries, and I think what I'm kind of projecting for him to finish with in terms of rushing attempts, probably if you go up to 115, 120, that's more so where I think Tarik Cohen can be more of a factor in the rushing game. But receptions wise, I mean, he was tied for first among running backs with 15 receptions in the slot, according to Pro Football Focus. So I still see him being having a big impact in the receiving game because, like I said, he lines up in the slot or at wide receiver. What is that? About 195 times there. Did mental math there. That was tough. So I think he could definitely, just with this offense, probably getting more opportunities this season. You just have to expect Tarik Cohen's usage to just go up. 46% is not enough offensive snaps percentage wise, because anytime he's on the field, you have to account for him. So I think we can expect more Tarik Cohen in year 3 now. Especially going back to his first season, we're making progress in the right direction, but we're going to see more Tarik Cohen in 2019 for sure.
All right, I have a follow-up, but I'm going to swing it over to Brandon to get his take. Looking at Tarik Cohen last year, 99 rushes, 99 targets as a receiver. Do you think that one-to-one mix kind of holds true, or do you see it shifting one way or another this year, even slightly? And just to kind of show some perspective on productivity each way, he had 4.5 yards per rush, which is very admirable, but he did have 10.2 yards per catch. But again, I know you have to keep defenses honest when he's on the field. So do you see an even split yet again, but just a larger role, or do you see it skewing one way or the other?
I see it staying pretty close to that 1-to-1. I have it more towards the receiving end because I think he's a much better playmaker that way. He's just such a good route runner, and it's such a mismatch because he can open guys up, like Nick mentioned earlier with the Josh Bellamy play. Like guys take into account that he's out there running those certain routes. So I see him keeping close to that 1-to-1 ratio, but his role is going to be expanded. He needs to be out there for 56% of the snaps at least, compared to 46%. I think that's a very respectable number for him. That'll increase his productivity.
All right. Now, year 1, Tarik Cohen, 140 total offensive touches for 723 yards. Year 2, It jumps up to 170 touches for 1,169. So I think you guys know where I'm getting at here. Year 3, Tarik Cohen. How many touches? How many yards? Nick?
Crap. You need to honestly read those stats. Go back to what was last year again? How many snaps
Sure.
and then what was the yards?
That was 170 touches, not snaps.
70 touches. Sorry.
1,169 yards.
I think realistically, especially with this offense just having more opportunities, it's going to be a lot better. They're going to be out there more. You could expect somewhere in the 220 range for Tarik Cohen, I think. And with now having David Montgomery, you don't have to really switch out running backs because here's Jordan Howard coming in, Tarik Cohen's going out. So 220. Is it so 1,500 maybe? That's a very just kind of off the top of my head, but I have no idea.
Okay. Nick is failing now at that mental math.
My
My math is correctly. That's 50 touches for about 400 yards. So you're looking at, see, I'm bad
Here's
at
the
math
mental
too.
math again. Yeah.
4 yards per touch. I think that's a little low.
That is a little low. So 1,700.
Okay. Brandon, how about you?
I'll do mine since I projected my stats. I'm not going to give you what they are, but I'll give you the total touches and the total yards. I figured that would help a little bit more. I've got him at 185 touches. We can break that down later when we get to the projected stats for about 1,260 total yards. And I don't necessarily think he'll get to that 200 touches number simply because there's so many other options on this offense. And once the game kind of bounces itself out, like I said, if Matt Nagy makes him the focal point early in a game and they stop him, then it's going other places. And there's a lot of other weapons on this team as well that they can get the ball to. So I think 200 is a high number for Tarik Cohen, but I've got him at 185 for his total touches, about a little over 1,200 total yards.
All right. I think it's actually a perfect time now. Do you have any official stats for Tarik Cohen that you did want to share, Brandon, for your projections?
Yeah, I do. I've got him at 110 rushes for 460 yards, and he's got 75 receptions for 800 yards and 12 total touchdowns.
I like. How about you, Nick? Did you have anything else, or do you try and do some more mental math real quick? Do I need me to continue to stall? Anything else?
No, I'm done with the mental math. That's about as much math as I've done in the past 4 years since doing college algebra. So I'm done with math.
I understand. I was just doing concession duty at my son's little league, and we're selling Gatorades and Airheads, and it's $2 or 10 cents or 25, and that's taken me a long time to really do some of this math, which is partly pathetic. But I'm more of a writer. I don't usually use the math part of my brain, so it's actually crazy. I warmed up after an hour of it, but it took a while to kind of slow rolling. But so I definitely feel your pain, but I didn't have to do that on the podcast, so I'm pretty lucky. All right. Well, up next, we're going to look forward to the new Bears at the position. But first, I need to call a quick timeout to tell you a little bit about our show sponsor, SeatGeek. Do you ever feel like ticketing websites make getting to the event difficult on purpose? The real question is, how easy could it be if those ticketing sites actually cared? With millions of live event tickets and a price match guarantee, SeatGeek proves there is a better way. Search sports, live music, comedy, and more. SeatGeek has the tickets that you're looking for all in one place. They built the fastest way to find tickets so you can stop searching for the perfect seat and start enjoying it. So, why is SeatGeek better than the rest? Great question. To put it as simply as possible, SeatGeek is a better process. SeatGeek pulls together millions of tickets from all over the web. Then it rates each on a deal on a scale of 1 to 10. And finally, SeatGeek displays them on an interactive seat map, which I love because you can click the seat and then kind of get a projected estimate of what your view is going to look like. And every purchase throughout SeatGeek is fully guaranteed, so you can shop for tickets with confidence. And as you know, all of us here at the Chicago Audible have the SeatGeek app on our phone, and it's been the easiest way that we've been able to shop for tickets. In fact, earlier today when I was prepping for this show, I decided to kind of take a glance at those Week 1 Bears-Packers tickets because even though we're going to the Bears-Chiefs, I have to admit, a part of me really wants to go see that game. And within a few taps, I was easily able to discover plenty of amazing deals, with a bunch having grades of 9 or even higher. So if you want to be part of history as the Bears and the NFL each kick off their 100th season, I highly encourage you to check out SeatGeek for these tickets soon before those amazing deals are taken. And don't forget my hack. You can create your own budget, set the maximum amount that you want to pay, and then sort by deal. That way you know you're getting the best tickets possible. And SeatGeek will even give you $10 off your first SeatGeek purchase. And all you need to do, use our promo code. Download the SeatGeek app today and use promo code BEARS for $10 off your first purchase. Again, that's promo code BEARS, BEARS, for $10 off your first purchase on SeatGeek. Alrighty, you're listening to the Chicago Audible podcast. I'm your host, Little Wit. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Brandon Hazlett and Nicholas Moriano. We are continuing Countdown to Camp. Today's episode is all about the Bears running backs. We talked about Ryan Nall, if you can even consider that a conversation. We talked about Tarik Cohen, probably the most electrifying player on this entire Bears roster. And now it's time to move on to the three new Bears at the position. And let's go ahead and begin with who got here first. And that's going to be Mike Davis. He was one of the first free agent signings of the year for Chicago. He is a player that is going to be paid $3 million this season, which is more than the Bears would have had to pay Jordan Howard, by the way. Now, we did speak about Davis and what he brings to the table when the Bears signed him, but it's worth noting again, he did have his best years of pro last season, 726 yards on 146 total touches. And yes, that is very identical to Tarik Cohen's 2017 numbers, but don't let that fool you because Davis and Cohen are two entirely different types of running backs. So guys, let's begin the Mike Davis conversation with a refresher. What kind of back is Davis? AKA, what are some of those physical tools that you're expecting him to bring to this offense in training camp and in the regular season? And let's go to Nick first.
Yeah, so Mike Davis is just a tough runner. I was just watching some film on him last night, specifically the two games against Arizona. That's where I think he displayed a good majority of what he can be as a runner. Just one that's really tough, not going to be tripped up by these ankle tackles, going to see the hole, hit the hole. So it's not like Davis is trying to do too much. You're not going to really see him have negative yardage because he's taking what defense is giving him. And I think that's what the Bears need out of maybe a third running back option now, someone that can also, just get what he's going to take and also be an option out of the backfield, something that, Jordan Howard really wasn't. So that's what I see from Mike Davis, somebody who's going to fall forward, get those yards, has a little bit when I was watching him, the Jordan Howard as a runner type, I can see that a little bit, but Mike Davis also has some sneaky little moves in there. There's a couple times where he's doing some spin moves and it's maybe just a gain, maybe a half a yard or a full yard, but every yard counts. And there's times where he's a bigger back where there's a DB coming off the line of scrimmage unblocked and he's just jumping sideways horizontally to kind of avoid him. So he brings a little bit of elusiveness to him, but that's what I saw out of Mike Davis as a runner and just as a football player, someone who can do a little bit of everything, but he's not, I would say, great at one thing.
Yeah, you said it pretty well. I know that they talked to the Bears running back coach, Charles London, and he kind of mimicked a lot of that, what you're saying, but primarily about how he's very difficult to bring down, very good at breaking tackles. He's a very tough runner. Brandon, anything else about Mike Davis that you want to kind of bring up here on what he does bring to Chicago?
Not really. I mean, Nick touched on a lot of things, so I don't want to echo what he said because I do that, I think, more than I should anyway. But he is also a decent receiver. He had almost 30 receptions last year, so he can be used in multiple ways, not just the Jordan Howard-ish between the tackles type of runner. He also has some decent hands, so I'd be looking forward to see how they utilize him in that way too.
Wow, I'm surprised you didn't go this way, Brandon. It's not really a physical tool, so maybe that's why you didn't go here yet. But one thing he does bring to the table, one thing he does provide this offense is ball security. No fumbles last year, only one in his entire 4-year career as well. So those are numbers that obviously, perk us up a little bit. Anytime you can have playmakers on offense that are also very secure with the football, good things usually do happen. Nick, right back to you, though. Is there anything that you're hoping that Davis can improve on this offseason as he kind of enters, I was going to say Chicago again, but I guess the Bears?
It's not that what I want to see Mike Davis improve on. I think what you see is what you get out of him as a player, but I don't want to see him because he did say, and this was in Brad Bigg's article, Chicago Tribune writer, he says he expects to see a little bit more production here in Chicago. I don't want to see him maybe take these opportunities and try to do too much with them, right? Because yes, he's getting paid now, but I think what the Bears really want out of him is what they saw in Seattle, someone who's just going to execute the plays right, not look to bounce things outside, maybe get negative yards, but take what's in front of him. So I don't want to see that from Mike Davis. Now he's with his new team. Obviously, you want to try and impress, but play within your abilities. That's what I want to see Mike Davis continue to do. And I think he knows his role. I know he said he expects to see more than the 112 carries that he got in Seattle. But honestly, when I'm looking at how this is going to be distributed, I don't know if he gets that just with the two running backs that are ahead of him. So I just want to see him stay within himself and not try to do too much when he does get his opportunities.
So if I can summarize everything you just said into 2 words, it would be BU.
It would be BU.
All right, Brandon, over to you. 2019, Mike Davis. What would be, in your eyes, considered a successful season?
So I seen Nick's tweet just to promote his Twitter page a little bit more, where he had the gif of the guy doing the math in his head trying to figure out where all these guys fit in as far as carry wise go. And I actually have Mike Davis getting more rushes than Tarik Cohen. I think his running style really plays a hand in that. His size, his ability to run between the tackles. I have him for 130 rushes for 475 yards and 20 receptions for 160 yards, 5 total touchdowns. That's kind of what I've been projected at. And I think that would, be a successful season for him as well, because he's never seen those type of numbers. Like he had 112 carries last year, as you pointed out earlier. But I think that if he can increase the bulk, I'm not sure that he's necessarily going to be that feature back, because he's never seen that type of load be put on him. So I'm not sure that he really gets that, but the opportunity is there. If he can get it, then go get it. But I think.
Oops, we may have lost Brandon.
I wonder what Brandon was thinking. Oh, there he goes.
Hi, Brandon.
Did I quit?
You did.
Did I quit?
Oh.
So you left off at saying you were thinking, and then we just don't know what you were thinking.
Okay, well, I was thinking that since he's going to be the most experienced veteran running back on the team, that's going to play a hand for him early on in the year as far as getting more touches and more carries of that nature. And then I think if there is going to be a feature back, then it will be David Montgomery, who I assume we're going to talk about next. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay. How about you, Nick? In terms of, Mike Davis and your expectations, I think Brandon's numbers, I don't think they're high per se, but I think they're high for you. Am I right?
They are high for me, and the only way I really see Mike Davis maybe getting to the carry numbers is if David Montgomery is not able to transition as well as maybe we were all expecting here. But so I have him pegged around 85, 90 carries. And if he can replicate the numbers that he actually put up with Seattle last year, that'd be fine with me. I deem that as a successful season. He had 112 carries, 514 yards, and a 4.6 average yard carry, and then 4 touchdowns. You can reduce the number of carries, but still keep that same production. I think that's great out of a third running back. So that's what I'm kind of expecting. Not as much carries, just because I think David Montgomery. Well, you guys know how I feel about David Montgomery. Yeah. So we'll get to talk. We'll talk to him in a bit, but that's where I have him pegged, and that's the only way I see him maybe getting more carries, like how Brandon sees him, is if David Montgomery's not able to, just pick up this NFL offense, the style and play as quick as, I was thinking he would.
All right, so you do see Mike Davis as a running back 3. You don't really envision. See, when I'm looking at the Bears' backfield this year, I do see, especially early on this season, a by committee approach until someone just takes over. Is that accurate to you, Nick? Or do you really see them, as long as Montgomery shows the coaches that he's where he should be, kind of having that larger role?
Yeah, I just envision Montgomery being the guy from day one. He's going to show what he can do. I mean, look, I wrote a whole entire article about him being the perfect RB. I think he's going to take full advantage of right when training camp starts. You'll see what he's able to do. It's that really being elusive, and that's what Nagy wants. Someone who's elusive and can catch out of the backfield. That is David Montgomery. So I just have him pegged as being the day one guy, and we'll see how Matt Nagy kind of fluctuates the running backs as the season goes on.
All right. Well, scrolling through my notes, next up is David Montgomery, someone we have not talked about at all yet on this podcast. Not that we're excited by any means. But Montgomery, of course, he's not just a final component of that DMC backfield, but he also can be the future at the position here in Chicago. The Bears invested heavily in him, despite no picks in the first 2 rounds, as they traded up to use their first pick on the Iowa State running back. And now I know we had ourselves a hefty instant reaction show on Montgomery as soon as he was drafted, and we have spoken about him on this podcast since. But Nick, I want you to go ahead and give our listeners the Spark Notes version of what type of running back Montgomery is, in case they are new to the show.
Yeah, Spark Notes version. So it's a guy that is elusive, has great balance after contact, great vision, catching ability, just really what Matt Nagy kind of envisioned as the premier running back in his offense. So that's what you're going to get out of Montgomery, someone that can really do it all, versatile. You can line him up in the slot if you need to put him out wide. He's capable of running routes, but he's a really good runner. And I think just with this Bears offensive line, as opposed to what he had at Iowa State, which wasn't really much, he's just going to have a lot more opportunities to get to that second level and really show that elusiveness. You know, he forced the most missed tackles among running backs last season. That's exactly what he's going to bring to the Bears, someone who can create on his own if there's nothing there in front of him. So that's kind of the Spark Notes version of David Montgomery, and he's just going to be an exciting player to watch for this Bears offense.
And I'll say it, Nick, if you want a full version of David Montgomery, head over to our blog, scroll down a few pages, and you'll see my article. And who knows, maybe I'll tweet it later.
You could follow me at Nicholas Moriel because we've been talking about my Twitter like the entire day. So there it is.
Brandon, I'm going to play a game real quick. You have a 5-word limit. What excites you the most about David Montgomery? Choose your words carefully. That's one.
Oh, that's
three.
That's three.
You're done. We're done.
It.
All right. That's what excites Brandon about Montgomery. I'm willing to give you a second chance if you're up for it. And again, use your words carefully.
Yes, because I'm done. This isn't exactly the 5 words I had in mind.
I guess you're done again, but I'm going to be nice.
Okay, I'll take a third time. A fourth time. Explosive, playmaking, slippery, feature back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well worth the wait. Well worth the wait. A couple of fumbles there. I think you had more than Tarik Cohen had all last season, which was a big
Pretty
number,
close.
if I remember correctly.
6.
It was. All right.
I only took 4 times.
Okay, fine. You beat him by 2. But okay, getting back to some more serious stuff. Brandon, as we've had some time to kind of reflect on David Montgomery, look at what he did in college, project him over here to the pros. Do you have anything that you want to see him either clean up or something that you want to kind of see him fortify here in Chicago at training camp?
Yeah, something I really want to see him improve on is his breakaway speed. That's not really like a strength for him. He gets it into third gear when he gets out there in the open field, but he really struggles to get into fourth and just take it back to the house. There are guys that will catch up to him, and that's something I think he can really improve on because the NFL speed is a little bit quicker than that in the Big 12 of a weak defense. So I think that's something he can improve on, and that would definitely help him, but it's not necessarily something that's imperative to him having success in this league because he's going to be able to break tackles, and he's going to be able to create the opportunities like Nick said. The one thing I worry about him is having that little bit of rookie Tarik Cohen where he tries to do too much. I could see that being an issue here, and that may be why he doesn't get the start right away instead of being Mike Davis like I was alluding to earlier. But if he can just, let the game come to him, work on his speed a little bit more, then I think that he'll be set up to have a really good year.
What about you, Nick? Anything further on Montgomery that you really want to kind of see him take another step in?
Yeah, so I think the big thing, especially for rookie running backs, is being able to block, especially on third down situations. And that is something that Montgomery can really improve upon, coming into his first year with the Bears. There are times where he kind of just lowers his head, will lean with the shoulders. So I think that's going to be fundamental for him to, one, show that he can be the feature back and just be a capable and reliable running back in Matt Nagy's offense. So blocking will be the biggest thing that I want to see Montgomery improve upon from, Iowa State to now with the Chicago Bears.
Right. A pretty big asset out there, number 10. So you got to make sure you're protecting him at all costs, which to that point, that could be a reason why you see someone like a Mike Davis earlier on this season. Nick?
Maybe.
Correct.
All right. All right. So moving forward, and I'm very curious to your thoughts on this, and you can take this really any way you want it. What kind of numbers does Montgomery need to produce as a rookie for you to call it a success? And again, is it going to be like 1,000 total yards? Is it more? Is it less? Or maybe you're looking at yards per touch. I'm very excited to see how you guys want to take this because, again, there are multiple ways to establish some value. So, Brandon, you're up first.
So Jordan Howard last year had more than half the team's carries. So this wild card group, we went from tight end being, the weakest, wide receiver being the strongest, to what I'm calling the wild card group with these three guys, these three new guys, and Tarik Cohen. I think that this wild card group is, they got some big shoes to fill, because we were used to having that running back get 1,000 yards, the first few years, and fell just a little bit short last year. So I think Montgomery's going to be that guy that really takes that opportunity. I've got him pegged for 200 rushes, 885 yards, hauling 10 receptions for 75 yards with 10 total touchdowns. I think that once he gets settled in, lets the game come to him, then he'll be able to succeed. And, that'll be after the Ike Davis experiment in the first couple weeks. I think that Montgomery is really going to be the guy that really takes over that running load.
Well, yeah, that's what he's doing in the backfield, that running load. There goes Brandon thinking out loud. Talking out loud. How about you, Nick? When it comes to numbers and David Montgomery, where do you kind of see it all come into place?
Yeah, so I was just kind of looking at, what rookie running backs did last year in terms of attempts, because I think that's going to be a big thing with this Bears offense. How many attempts is each guy going to get throughout the season? And just to throw out some examples, Philip Lindsay from Denver Broncos had 192 attempts. Barkley, being a first-round pick, had 261. Kerryon Johnson, 118. Nick Chubb, 192. I think Montgomery, not going to have that 250 that Jordan Howard had, but I think I envision him being that feature back that Matt Nagy's just going to utilize. 225. And I know I said initially I don't think he's going to get 1,000 yards rushing, but I think he can do it. I really do. I think he can get to that 1,000 yards in his first season, especially if he's able to pick up this offense in the NFL game, like as I'm envisioning him doing. So 225, maybe 1,000 yards. If you can get 8 touchdowns, I think that's already a great season, but that would show why the Bears moved up. That's why they envision him being the guy that can replace Jordan Howard. So it's like he never left. You're just picking up the running game, and the running game is improving, and you're able to keep Tarik Cohen on the same field on the field at the same time. So that's where I have David Montgomery. If he can get those numbers, I think that would be great for this Bears offense.
Now,
Nick,
as we go ahead.
I got a question for Nick. How much mental math did you do before the show?
Not a lot, apparently, because I'm not being able to project it as fluidly as I thought I'd be able to do.
Well, the reason I asked is I was looking at last year's rushing attempts as a team. They had almost 470 attempts. So if Montgomery has 225, I didn't hear a number pegged for Tarik because we were battling mental math.
I do have it all
getting
laid
90-ish.
Out.
Okay.
So
I was just curious because I didn't.
Montgomery 225, Cohen 110. Davis 80. Then you got to factor in for Trubisky. I think he had around 60-ish last year. I had him at 50, and then everyone else 15. So there were receivers that had it. Akeem Hicks had a rushing attempt. So and that comes out to 480, which would have been third in the league last season, 2018. So yeah, it's a bunch of attempts, but the Bears finished overall rushing attempts 6th in the league with I forget what it's somewhere in here the number of rushing attempts that they had. So yes, it's a jump.
We're pretty much on the same page because I was trying to do the math in my head. Like, he's got more there, but he's taking some from Ike Davis, and I don't know where this all adds up because I forgot about Mitch until about halfway through the show, and I was like, nuts. So that's why I was asking. That's all.
That's why the GIF, however you want to pronounce it, you pronounce it. That's why we really don't even know. It's probably not going to come close, but yeah, it's not the easiest thing to do.
Now, the one thing I'm going to say that's for certain here that I like, and we talked about it throughout the show, but I just want to kind of put a fine point on it with the Bears' big three, the DMC. All three of them, what it all boils down to is they know how to make people miss, but in different ways. Tarik Cohen, Ike Davis, David Montgomery. Really good at getting additional yards after contact, either fighting through contact, avoiding it with their elusiveness. No matter which kind of way you want to splice it, if you want to kind of boil it down, that's one of their biggest strengths, all three of them, which I think is going to be, very dangerous for defenses at least, because they're not going to know. Because when you play a game, you can kind of learn some nuances to take a back down some of their moves. When you have 3 different guys coming at you, they can all beat you in different ways. That's going to have them thinking a little bit more. And when you have a defense thinking, again, for the offense, good things usually do happen. But guys, we do have one more running back to get to real quick, and that's Kerrith Whyte Jr. He was the second running back that we drafted this year at Florida Atlantic. He played behind Devin Singletary, who was drafted 1 pick after David Montgomery this year. Whyte, he's known for his elite speed, which Matt Nagy said during minicamp definitely stands out on the field. So on top of that speed, are there any other elements of his game that kind of get you the most excited, or anything that you know right now that he must work on, as he is, of course, still a very raw prospect? B?
Yeah, what excites me is his production, his statistical production. Granted, Singletary, the running back in front of him, who got drafted before him, uh, got the most fame, the most eyes on him because he was also a really good running back. But White has scored on 14% of his touches on offense, 10 touchdowns on 144 touches. So he knows how to find the end zone, and his special teams has contributed as well. That's another thing that excites me between those two things. But something he can work on in camp. He needs to be a better receiver if he wants to play a bigger role in this offense. I don't think that's going to happen this year. But there's a couple times where I'm watching tape where he's in the open field and he catches the ball, but then he has to catch it again because he's so worried about making his next move that he doesn't catch the ball first.
All right. What about you, Nick?
That's an interesting question because with Kerrith Whyte, I mean, is he going to make the team is what I'm questioning right now. I know obviously if he's going to make it, and obviously he has that elite speed. And I think that's really the focal point why Ryan Pace and the Bears organization looked into drafting him. But this offense is pretty stacked now. Even are they going to carry another wide receiver? That factors into it, the tight end role. So I think where you're going to have to really get Kerrith Whyte to possibly make this roster is what can he contribute on special teams? Not even just as a runner, because I think you have three guys that are capable of it. And you want to see these new, especially two new guys contribute. Is there room for Kerrith Whyte to make a contribution on the offense in year one? Well, obviously first he's got to make it, but I think he needs to show his value on special teams before anything.
No, you bring up some good points, and getting back to him as an offensive player, two things in addition I think he needs to work on. And I think this one applies to most running backs, but pass protection. Again, if he wants to see any offensive snaps, he really need to prove he can do that at the pro level, something he was very inconsistent with down there in the collegiate level. And then patience, get a little bit more zen. There are times where you see him out running plays, out running his blocks. He needs to learn to be a little bit more patient, let things kind of set up in front of him, and then use his speed to blow by those guys, because the Bears have a pretty good offensive line who are usually pretty much glue once they get to people and are able to drive defenses backwards. So if you can use that, get into some open space, especially in training camp, and prove that he can use that patience as well as his vision and that speed, that's a deadly trio right there. So if he wants a shot at making it and getting some offensive snaps, those are some things I'm definitely hoping that he can display some improvement on. All right, guys, but it is time to make it official. Nick, you just kind of alluded to it. How many backs make the team? Who's on the practice squad? I just want to note the Bears did begin last season by keeping 3 backs to start, but they did bring up Taquan Mizell as the season wore on and did move up to 4 running backs. So it is kind of a fluctuating situation. Maybe they do it again. Maybe they change it up this year. But Brandon, let's go to you first. And I think you already alerted this about 45 minutes ago.
Yeah, about who's getting cut. That's right. No, I do have Careth White making the practice squad. I think it's going to be very tough for him to make the active roster. There's just so many weapons, and they were so deep at so many positions. It really comes down to who they want to keep at what position. And I think that White is one that you can't really let go just because he's so fast and explosive, and he's a really good kick returner as well. So that's something, that value that Nick talked about earlier on special teams, proving himself. I think he's kind of done that in college. He's just got to translate that to training camp now. So then I have Run DMC as my big 3 in the backfield, which is different than Run DHC, who's on defense. These are 3 guys. That's just one.
All right. What about you, Nick?
Yeah, right now I have Tarik Cohen, Ike Davis, David Montgomery making the 53-man roster, and Kerrith Whyte will put him on the practice squad. I just think that when you look at it, when they brought up Mizell last year, I wonder if that was more so because Matt Nagy knew that he knew what Jordan Howard was as a player, so you have to supplement that by getting somebody who's can be, and quotes, be more productive in the passing game. Granted, Mizell did have a receiving touchdown in that game against Detroit on Thanksgiving, but now Matt Nagy has David Montgomery, some guy, Mike Davis, that can catch out of the backfield. So I don't know if you necessarily need as many running backs now. So I think the 3 will make it, and then Kerrith Whyte will make the practice squad.
All right. For myself, I have White on the active roster, but obviously I would not be surprised if he does get, practice squad. I think if he displays too much speed in this preseason, and we all know how much speed is coveted in the NFL, and he shows teams that he could maybe be an impact on their roster with maybe a more depleted running back core than what we have here in Chicago. He'd be someone that teams would easily snatch up during being on a practice squad. So that depends, though, because you have Emmanuel Hall. We've talked about Dax Raymond at tight end as well. It really depends on where these bottom tier, low draft picks, those priority undrafted free agent signings kind of lie. And right now, I see Careth White due to his speed and potential, and the fact that I think people will want to scoop him up right away. I see him making the active roster for that reason. Again, the fullback, and we haven't talked about this actually for a couple of weeks when we probably should have, but that fullback being gone does open up an extra roster spot somewhere. It could go to tight end, it could go to receiver, it can go to running back. So right now, and I'm not going to say that spot's going to Careth White, but Careth White, at least for me, I do have making the roster, and I do have Ryan Nall yet again on the practice squad. All right, guys, time to wrap up the show with a handful of our big picture questions. And yes, we are going to start with some over-under because you guys have been loving it each and every week. So to kick things off, over or under 2,000 total rushing yards from the running backs. And just to put it in perspective, the Bears as the entire team, adding in the receivers, Akeem Hicks, Mitchell Trubisky, had 2,003. But I'm asking from 2,000 yards on the ground just from running backs. Brandon, over or under?
Just from running backs,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say under.
Okay. What about you, Nick?
Yeah, I'm actually, they may just get 2001. But if Montgomery has to get the 1,000, if you project maybe 600 from Cohen, 400 from Davis, math there for 401, that's 2001 yards. So we'll give them over the 2,000.
All right. Over or under 15 rushing touchdowns from the running backs. 12 last year, just for perspective purposes. And Nick, you're up first.
We're going to go over. I think that this running back group, I think the running game in general is going to be a lot better. And Matt Nagy, instead of being, not that his creativeness is a bad thing, because it's definitely a good thing and it helps the Bears, but you could be a little bit more traditional down there with the running backs that you have and just run the ball in and hopefully get some, big plays as well. But I think you can see over 15 touchdowns.
Okay. B?
I agree. We can go over 15, especially with some spread sets. We'll get David Montgomery, Tarik Cohen back there, open up a lot more running room up the middle. And once they hit those holes, man, these guys are going to explode through them. And I think they can easily get more than 15.
Awesome. All right, 2 more of these to go. Over or under 1,300 total yards from Tarik Cohen. And just for all intents and purposes, to say it again, last year he had 1,169 yards. Brandon, is he going to get more or less? I think you already gave that number at the top of the show, but I need to make it official.
I did, but what was your number?
1,300 is what we're aiming for.
Yeah, I've got him under. I've got him at 1,260.
Ooh, so close, though.
Yes.
What about you, at Nicholas Moriano?
I better get some follows after this. So I do have him over. I think that Tarik Cohen is, again, we started to see more utilization out of him on the offense, but that's going to go up in 2019. But Will, we never get to ask you these questions. What do you have him projected? Over under 1,300, huh?
Can I push? No, that's such a cop out of this stage. For me, I'm going over. I mean, you saw him go from the 700s to just under 12. So for him to only go up 150 total yards, I mean, that's easy. That's easy for Tarik Cohen. In this role, this offense this year, I'm definitely going to go over 1,300 total yards. Thanks, Nick. I appreciate being included sometimes.
Of course.
All right, and the last over-under of the week, 150 total touches for Ike Davis. Last year, 146. So does he have a very similar role one way or another? Brandon, you're up first.
Total touches?
Total touches.
Oh, see, because I actually had him at exactly 150.
So you have a push.
Had him with 130 rushes and 20 receptions.
All right.
At my projected stats. So you know what? I'll go over. I'll go 151. He'll have 20 receptions.
All right. You talked yourself into it. You're not going to sit and right the middle right now. What about you, Nick? Is he going to get less because your boy David Montgomery is going to just eat up that role from week 1 forward?
Oh, absolutely. You already know. Well, so he's going to be under, and I had Davis projected around 80 rushing attempts. So I don't know if he's going to, make that up in the receiving game. So I'm going to go under. Yeah, that's not going to happen because David Montgomery's taking over starting week 1.
All right. I have a couple fill in the blanks this week. I'm actually excited to see where these go. So fill in the blank. The running back that will lead the group with yards after contact is Nick.
Do I have to say it? David Montgomery.
B.
Tarik Cohen.
All right, and the last one. This is the one that I was actually very excited when I thought about this one earlier today. The running back with the first carry of 2019 will be blank, and the back who gets the final carry of the season will be blank. Brandon.
First will be Mike Davis. Underwhelmingly.
I was going to say, I just felt all the air go out of all three of our rooms.
Yes. And the last will be Tarik Cohen.
All right. What about you, Nick? Is it going to be David Montgomery?
It's going to be David Montgomery, and then it's going to be Mike Davis. Unless Taquan Mizo gets a carry and somehow makes it. I'm just kidding.
Say, he's on the team.
Well, he's a wide receiver now.
And we already said no shot last week.
Oh, that's right. So he somehow made it back in the running back episode. So it's going to be Mike Davis.
All right. All right, guys. Each week I ask you, what is your confidence level at the position? Last week, I think we were all in the 9s or higher. Tight ends, we're all kind of in lukewarm water. So, Brandon, when it comes to confidence level of the running backs, you classify them earlier in the show, if I'm quoting you correctly, as a wild card kind of bunch. So what does that do for your confidence as it stands here in the first week of June?
With 2 rookies being drafted, Careth White and David Montgomery, we know they're explosive, slippery guys. And Mike Davis, who's more between the tackle but doesn't really have a whole lot. And Tarik Cohen, we know what we get, and we think he can do more. Overall, I'm going to put my confidence level at an 8 because we know what Tarik Cohen can do. We know Mike Davis is going to be reliable. He doesn't have any fumbles. And we know that David Montgomery is the guy that's going to be able to create opportunities. So without really seeing much of these guys in person, I'm putting it at an 8.
Interesting. I think you and I pulled what usually Nick and I kind of do on a weekly basis because I have an 8. And underneath it, I know what we have in Cohen, pretty much know what we have in Davis. Rookies are a little bit of a question mark with, of course, Montgomery. If he pans out correctly, things should be good. So I'm at an 8 as well. Good stuff there, Brandon. And at Nicholas Moriano, what's your confidence level?
We were talking about sliding into my DMs last episode. Continue with the Twitter here. Okay. I really think that the Bears made the right move in getting Montgomery and Mike Davis being a guy that can, like I said earlier in the show, just really do things. He does his job well. And Tarik Cohen is going to see more usage. So I'm really confident in this group. I think Matt Nagy's going to figure out how to actually use the running game and be consistent with it throughout the entire season. I have them pegged as a 9 right now. I'm confident in this group, even though we have 2 question marks really with Davis and Montgomery, but they're going to show why they were brought here this season and just be, implementing this offense and make it, even more dangerous this season.
All right. Brandon and Nick, where are you guys right now?
What do you mean?
100.
No, see, I knew you guys would be confused. I was going to say the correct answer is on the spot because I'm going to ask you each, what's your bold prediction for the running backs? Haven't done this all countdown to camp. Haven't done it since the wild card preview game. So, hell, it's time to do a bold prediction, guys. I've missed doing them. So, Brandon, what's your bold prediction for the running backs?
Oh, and you had to go to me first. Careth White gets 4 touchdowns this year.
All right. I will classify that in the bold category. Maybe like that semi-italic bold, but
well,
bold,
I've had some very weak ones in the past, so I tried to do something a little outside the box.
I appreciate it. That's a good one. That's a really good one. What about you, Nick?
Got to stick with my love for David Montgomery. He is the offensive rookie of the year this season.
Wow.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, that's bold. So we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening there. But there have been some media guys that have, him possibly being that. And if he's, what I expect him to be, who knows?
I mean, he was classified right under Joshua Jacobs as, that second or third best back in the draft. He's on one of the most up-and-coming offenses in the NFL with a great offensive line in front of him. All the chips are on the table for him to take over as long as the carries get divided up in such a way or the touches get divided up in such a way. If he gets the opportunities, I think you're right. I mean, the potential's there, but still a bold prediction nevertheless. My bold prediction actually is about David Montgomery as well. I did have, of course, the privilege of thinking about this all day. But for mine, David Montgomery is going to score 10 touchdowns in the month of December.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I had him at 9 all season. That is a very bold prediction
He
there.
comes on strong at the end of the year. And guess what? If he does that, Nick, yours probably comes true too.
Yeah, for sure.
Could we say, like, I guess my second semi-ish bold prediction is that David Montgomery gets more touchdowns than Jordan Howard? Because did you guys see his comment this week? He said, I'll get more opportunities in Philly. And I was like, that's a me comment, and that's why you're not here.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You just put him in his place? I guess. No, not
Wow.
really. We're just getting there on the podcast talking about it. He's getting
Right.
paid millions of dollars to play football. All right. Last but not least, guys, again, training camp is honestly, I'm not going to say right around the corner, but it's down the block. We're getting close. So when it comes to the running backs, I think there's a ton to pay attention to this year. Maybe even a little bit more than last year. Last year was more about how will they deploy Howard and Cohen. And now we know what the offense looks like. We know what Tarik Cohen has, but we have a few other running backs that there's a lot of question marks surrounding them, not from a talent perspective, from more of a utilization kind of area. So Brandon, I'm gonna go right back to you because I think you just coughed out a lung. So you're fresh. You have
I'm good.
You have some fresh air in you. So what's gonna be a few things in terms of the running backs that you're gonna be paying attention to at training camp?
I don't know how much stock we should really put into who's getting X amount of carries, who's getting more, who's getting less. Because like Nick said last week when I tried to make a statement about what we see in training camp where guys line up, he made a good point. We didn't really see much last year, so I don't know how much stock I want to put into who gets what carries, but really who stands out with the ones, because we know, like you said, we know what Tarik Cohen can do, but outside of that, it's an open market, if you will, for that number one running back spot on the depth chart. So I'll be looking forward to see who makes the splash plays against the ones.
Okay, which against that Bears defense, watch out. Nothing. I was hoping someone would say like, yeah, back me up. Do something.
Correct.
Thank you.
I just kind of blanked out, was staring straight, and then I'm sorry.
I think you're fine at Nicholas Moriano. You're good. Don't worry about it. So at Nicholas Moriano, I will get to you in a moment. I have a few things here. Number one, and again, Brandon, you hit a good point. Like you got to take everything you see at training camp with, probably a handful of salt, honestly. But does Tarik Cohen, does his usage change? Do they give him some of that veteran day off now? He is in year 3 here in the offense. Well, year 2 in the offense, year 3 in Chicago. Then, of course, Mike Davis, David Montgomery. Are they splitting time? And like you mentioned, Brandon, I have in my notes when they are playing against the ones. And this one's for more Montgomery. How effective can he be? And then when it comes to the actual preseason games, how do they use him? Because I think how often Montgomery is in the preseason may be a good indicator of what kind of role he's going to have from the beginning of the season. If he's playing in that 4th preseason game, for crying out loud, then maybe he's a little bit less along than we would like. And of course, Careth White and his speed, both as a running back and a kick returner, punt returner. Does he provide enough electricity as a kick returner right now to maybe overthrow a Cordero Patterson? To kind of earn himself a spot? That's something we can talk about in the special teams version of Countdown to Camp, but something that I am still kind of thinking about right now. But Nick, how about you?
So what I'm looking forward to in training camp is really the formations that Matt Nagy's going to come up with. I know we don't see probably anything that really happens in the regular season, but we see some things. And I want to see who lines up in the backfield on any given play. You just mentioned Patterson. He could be a guy there. You have Mike Davis. We're going to see Cohen, Montgomery, all these guys somehow in the field at the same time. That'll be interesting. And then also there was a lot of when Tarik Cohen was drafted in 2017, we saw him make these splash plays in training camp. Well, David Montgomery is capable of making those same splash plays and just making people look nasty. I want to watch him and see what he's able to do to some of these really good Bears defenders. They're going to have to be able to, make fundamental tackles, because if you slip up just a bit, Montgomery's going to make you pay. So that's what I'm going to be looking forward. Of course, you'll definitely see tweets about that if Montgomery's making people miss, because that's why the Bears really, want him to be on this team. And I want to see if he can do that in training camp.
Great stuff, guys. All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope that you all enjoyed our running back preview. I know at Nicholas Moriano sure did. We'll be back next week with our final offensive preview. It goes by so fast. We're going to dissect the Bears quarterbacks. And obviously, it's pretty much a long-winded saying we have a whole show about Mitchell Trubisky. But alas, we'll get there in a week. So how can Mitchell take that next step? And how big of a step are we anticipating him actually making? What specific areas of True's game must be elevated? And will Mitch throw for over 4,000 yards? And we can talk about Tyler Bray and Chase Daniel to kind of wrap things up, but just to kind of get your brain juices of flowing between now and next week. So we're going to be talking about all that and more on next week's Countdown to Camp. But remember, we will be having a podcast discussing our time at the Bears 100 weekend, which is, of course, coming up here in just a few days. We hope to see you there. Again, reach out to us if you're going, or if you just see us at the event, definitely feel free to stop by, say hi, and, talk some Bears football, because we really do love meeting all the listeners of the show. It's been one of the most, at least for mine, I think Nick and Brandon would agree, one of our favorite parts of doing the show is when we go to events like this or training camp or Campton and meeting listeners of the show. It just really shows, how much the show means to you, and how, I don't know how to explain it. It's one of those things, guys, that honestly words don't explain the feeling when we actually get to talk to people of the show. Things that when we started this podcast as underclassmen in college, never thought was going to be possible one day. So it's pretty cool. So definitely, it's going to be a fun weekend there in Rosemont, Illinois. So if you're there, definitely give us a shout out. But until next time, bear down, Chicago.